Hello, this is Hudson with BreakPoint Labs, and today we're going to be looking at some of the more advanced queries in ad-recon. So as always, we're going to start by verifying that we have BloodHound up and running. As we can see, we have it ready to go right here. We have our data already populated, and we can see that we can run queries and get output as usual. So first we'll start by running our help function. We can see that we have a few options beyond the standard queries. In this case, we're going to be looking at pathing and transitive queries a little bit. So to run these, all we do is we run ad-recon with the requisite switches. So we'll do pathing, and we can see it runs our general queries and all the standard output we would get, but we additionally now get the output of our pathing queries. So we can look at a couple of things here that are pretty interesting. So we have users with first-degree outbound rights. That's kind of interesting. We have users with path to DA. That's especially interesting to us right now. Groups and computers and even GPOs. So we'll start by looking at the users with path to DA. So we'll go ahead and cat that out. And here we can see that we have quite a few different users pop up. Some interesting notes about this is it shows us the total number of hops needed to get to admin count, or to domain admin, as well as whether or not they have the admin count feature enabled on their account. We can see some of the users, such as Drogon or the built-in administrator account, all have the admin count feature turned on. They're essentially domain admins in and of themselves, but we see quite a few users that do not have this feature. So, for example, let's say Viserys Targaryen. So we'll go ahead and grab this user, and then we'll do a quick search in our BloodHound output. There we go. Now, we can see here that they do not have the admin count feature, as we mentioned. We can see that they're a member of quite a few different groups. But let's go ahead and just see how long it takes to get from this user to domain admin. We can see here that they are a member of the domain users group, and the domain users group has ADCS rights over the domain, which would put them into the domain admins group. Moving back over, we can do the same thing by running our transitive queries and see what information we can find from there. So let's take a look at users with outbound transitive rights. Let's see if we have anything interesting there. We can see quite a few different users here. So let's go ahead and grab, well, we're already looking at Viserys Targaryen, so let's go ahead and just keep looking at that user. Let's go ahead and scroll down, and we can look at their outbound permissions. As we can see, we have the right to enroll certificates in quite a few different places here. They have certificate enrollment rights. Let's see, and that's a nested permission from their domain users group. Oh, no, I'm looking at domain users. Let's try that again. Here we go. Now we can see that they have their enrollment rights as part of the domain users subgroup. And we also have generic right over this user right here, this Jorah Mormont. And then we can kind of dig in with this user from there. As we noticed when we were looking at this user, the members of the domain users group have some excessive permissions, so that means we should probably be taking a look at this group and others. So let's go ahead and do that. One of our transitive queries here is common groups and their transitive outbound rights. So let's see what sort of output we got from that. So here we can see our domain users group that we were just looking at. You can see that it has some excessive outbound rights here. So let's see. can do that. We can look at that in some of the other domains as well. So let's go ahead and grab the domain users from one of the other domains and see what permissions they have. Go. And once again, we see we have enrollment rights for this user group. Let's see if we have any other interesting ones. Domain computers. Let's look at domain computers. And then once again, we have enrollment rights. As we know, we can go ahead and click on our edge right here and see some more information right here. Lots of certificate issues. And then last but not least, let's look at our computer outbound transitive rights. Let's take a look. Look at Bravos. It's not one of our domain controllers, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Look at the computer, not the container. So we can see it's not a domain controller, has lapse enabled. Some local admins, and then let's look at outbound control. So we can see it's one of the domain computers. It's got some password permissions, some GenericAll, has GenericAll over the CA server, which is pretty interesting. And it's got some nested permissions from the cert publishers group. The domain computers group. Pretty interesting stuff. So we can see by running these additional queries, we can get some more actionable information. And with this data set, it's pretty small, so it's a little bit easier to read the graphs. But when we start getting into larger data sets, the graphs become exceptionally hard to read if you're not doing targeted searches. So once we start getting hundreds or thousands of users or thousands of systems, we can see that we can very quickly dig through this data and pull out different systems that or users that we want to look at and kind of go from there. In our next video, we'll be looking at writing, extending our queries with some custom query development. Thanks.